First of all, my deepest condolences and my prayers for all of the families who lost such wonderful people on September 1st and in the past. Our prayers are with you, our thoughts are with you, and we do this in dedication to you. As we watch the world media and many of our own political leaders fall under the spell of the mullahs once again, as Rouhani speaks of moderation, let us not, in our desire for a peaceful solution, wake up and find ourselves with the nuclear-armed Iranian regime, because that's where we're headed right now. I fear we're approaching all of this poised to make the same mistakes we made all over again. Red lines that are drawn and then ignored. Red lines that are ignored without considering the damage it does to our credibility as a country. To avoid that, let's start to face reality by raising some questions that other people seem to be afraid to raise. As we meet here in front of the United Nations, there are 7 brave Iranian patriots, 6 women and 1 man, who are being held hostage in Iraq right now to be shipped to Iran, where they're going to be placed on trial, and you know what the outcome of that trial will be. This follows the September 1 slaughter, the savage attack on Camp Ashraf, where 52 people were killed by Iraqi forces with the complicity of Iran. If anybody has any doubt who's responsible for that attack, for that slaughter, people shot with handcuffs on, people shot with their hands tied behind their backs, bodies lying on the floor of a hospital room, shot in an emergency room, a woman with a hole in her head, obviously the victim of a coup de grace, and another woman shot holding her card showing she was a protected person, protected by my country, by our country, the United States of America. Each and every one of these 52 people and the 7 hostages have been promised protection by the United States and the United Nations. And in each case so far, the UN and the US have turned their backs on murder. This must stop. These promises promises of protection were made first by our military, by our State Department, and just last year by our Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. All of these people were promised the protection of the United States of America. And I fear that it's now become inconvenient to live up to our promises, because it will interfere with an agenda of negotiation at all costs. You know what an agenda of negotiation at all costs is called? It's called appeasement. It's called surrender. And I fear that these murders, these killings, are not coincidental. The last time the Iranian regime tried to fool us about their nuclear ambitions Who revealed their lying? Who exposed their concealment? Who brought to the world's attention that while Rouhani was negotiating in the past, the Iranian regime was just moving forward with enrichment and with becoming a nuclear power? Who revealed that? The MEK revealed that. Well, what better way is there? What better way is there to make sure that you shut down the information coming out of Iran if you are preparing for another attempt at fooling us than this kind of brutal slaughter? Killing 52 people on September 1st as you're getting ready for these so-called negotiations to make sure that people understand what will happen to them if they should give information about the Iranian regime's lying. What better way than to take 7 hostages and bring them back to Iran and put them on trial and hang them in public? Just think of what this will do to the people that are considering giving information. This is being done to shut down information coming out of Iran as Iran prepares once again to pull the wool over our eyes, to fool us. And when we examine all of the evidence, it's clear, just like the prior attacks, that these innocent people who were under U.S. and UN protection were slaughtered by Maliki's Iraqi forces at the behest of Iran. It's time for the United States to stand up and to take action before we engage in any kind of negotiations with these cold-blooded murderers. If we're going to approach these negotiations with maturity and realism, we must recognize that the Iranian regime has taken us down this road before, and they fooled us before. And if we let them fool us again, then we are fools. They negotiated with the United States and the West on the surface. And Rouhani has written and admitted that this was a complete hoax. While they were negotiating with us on the surface, they were enriching uranium in secret. This is what they may very well be preparing to do again. And the reason they're engaging in these killings today is to deter people from allowing this truth to come to light. The MEK poses a grave risk to destroying their plan. Anyone that thinks the MEK is not a threat to the regime in Iran just has to look at what Iran has done to the MEK. The people that have been killed, the people that have been slaughtered, the threats that have been issued. So why do I think that the September 1 slaughter wasn't an accident? Or the taking of the 7 hostages isn't an accident? This is like a mafia execution. Kill people in order to silence other people. And we should not allow it. The world should not allow it. The UN should not allow it. And certainly the United States should not allow it. The President of the United States should remember, before he considers shaking hands with this man, how much blood is on his hands. American servicemen, innocent men and women, students, and people killed just because they're Jewish. We must require a lot more of Rouhani before we even think about negotiating with him than just his smiling at us and telling us he's a moderate. and our failure to raise the murder of the 52 innocent people on September 1st, and our failure to protest the 7 hostages that are being held right now in Iraq, and our unwillingness to rescue the several thousand people of your people, decent people, our failure to rescue them, says to me that we may very well not be headed for negotiation, but for appeasement, to make certain that we're not fooled again, to make certain that under the guise of negotiating, we're not appeasing these murderers. There are steps that have to be taken right now. First, we must demand that Rouhani publicly call on Iraq and Maliki to release all 7 people that are right now being held hostage. Release them immediately. No meetings, no talks, no handshakes, no help, no assistance, no smiles until they are released. Second, the United States of America should fulfill its promise and live up to its word, and it should immediately send airplanes to Iraq and bring back all the people that are at Camp Liberty so that they don't become victims like the 52 who died on September 1st. We owe them that. It is our obligation. We gave our word. Instead of worrying so much about not offending our enemies, how about we try loyalty to our friends? How about we try keeping our word? Third, a special tribunal should be convened immediately, and it should commence an investigation and indict for crimes against humanity the Iraqis and their Iranian conspirators who were responsible for the September 1 atrocities and the earlier attacks on the people at Camp Liberty and Camp Ashraf. This should not go unnoticed. We should not turn our back on this. Justice requires that these people be brought to trial, that these people be brought to account for these atrocities against humanity that are so far being ignored. A word to the people listening at Camp Liberty. Your sacrifice for freedom and liberty is admired by all of us who prize freedom and are mature enough to realize that the price of freedom falls, unfortunately, on a few who have to make that sacrifice. Freedom comes at a very high price, and unfortunately, the people at Liberty are paying that price. But don't lose hope. Your cause is just, your courage exemplary, your principles admirable. As the history of your great nation Persia is written, your sacrifices, your courage, your ideals will prevail over these cold-blooded murderers who have hijacked your nation and have filled it with blood. This will end, and you will be the heroes. You will be the people standing up for freedom and decency. My admiration for you is immense, and my appreciation for all you have done is endless. You are all heroes.